The Bill Clark Show, presented by Dr. Pepper. And now, Coach Bill Clark.
Welcome in to the Coach Bill Clark Show, presented by Dr. Pepper, Buffalo Rock, Pat Smith, along with Landrum Roberts, Molly Robinson, and the Coach Bill Clark. Coach, it's that time of the year when, I know back in your day when you were coaching every single Saturday or a Friday night, you got an opportunity this time of the year to kind of step back from the game, have some family time and relax. What was Bill Clark's favorite thing to do in the summertime?
Yeah, so based on when we were playing, we were bringing guys back. So in high school, you had really a 2-week break. Some people do a week, and of course you got 7-on-7, and you got all this summer things that start. We can talk about that in a minute. But for me, it was 2 weeks off, take the family, go. And I think my kids to this day talk about those times where we drove across country and went to Jackson Hole and Yellowstone or Vegas or wherever in the car, each other, just that time with your kids that they still talk about today. So that was something I look forward to, and that really kind of got me through as we moved into the summer. I always took some time the 4th. Now, college, it was usually around the 4th, a couple of weeks there, but same thought process.
Coach, you're always honest with us. I know that I speak for Pat, speak for myself, a lot of our listeners and our viewers. Go to the beach, we pick up that preseason college football publication. Now you got a lot of them that are out there.
Yeah.
Did you ever peruse maybe one of those in that 2-week vacation time where you just said, I'll just take a look?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I would just load down with them because here's what, and I always knew that. So this is a really good discussion of strategy. So I'll use Phil Steele, for example. Y'all keep up with Phil Steele. Phil, it was an hour. Now, I got a Maxwell Award and got to travel to the awards with Phil was in they got a limo, picked us up and take us down. So I'm getting to hear Phil Steele all the way there and all the way back. He had picked a game that I'm happy to beat. We're playing Western Kentucky, and we end up winning, I forget, 45-43. He almost picked that score for – so I'm a fan. He picked this score. I'm like, this guy's really into it. He gets it. So we're talking about the publications. Phil was notorious for it was an hour plus. He had your roster. He had your depth chart. He was like a coach. And he was saying, now tell me about this guy. Player, average, another guy, just another guy. You could see how he had gotten it down to where he was going to get it out of the coach, and it was hard for the coach to sandbag, right?
Yeah.
But I think those publications, for me, we kept them because there was so much great information. You had rosters, you had depth charts, you had thoughts. So I was definitely, especially for early games.
I love and I know Pat does too, the anonymous coaches.
Yeah.
Now that they add the anonymous coaches, anonymous SEC coach says this about Bill Clark's squad in 2025 and giving some of that. But it's fascinating to me that you guys would actually, you would read them and you would keep them because there's a lot of great bio stuff, and that's less legwork for your guys.
Absolutely.
And you can concentrate on some other things around the game.
And like I said, especially those first 4 games. All you've got to go on is the previous year. So if anybody can give you anything, there we go.
That's what I'm talking about.
Music there. Anybody that could give you anything that would help you, update you. Oh, wait, this isn't a guy I knew about. Here's some background on him. Every one of us are looking, that's any good is looking for every single tidbit they can get on their opponent.
Well, in regards to that, did you use that as motivation for yourself? Like if you read something to where they predicted that UAB would finish last in the division or UAB's the worst team in all of college football, did you use that?
Yeah. As we've said before.
The reason I'm not being ugly, but we've talked to him about that.
Yeah.
Where our preseason top 10 worst coaches in America, headlining our list, Bill Clark of UAB.
This is my show. If we didn't remember, no, absolutely. That we discussed that. The year we were brought back. 130 teams. We picked 130. And I was laughing.
See, I wasn't being ugly. It was legitimate.
I was laughing, Bryant Vincent, who, I seem to think I saw a La Monroe shirt that might have been similar to that this year of, the number, whatever that was. We had 130 on the back. They just don't know.
Okay, now I understand from a motivation standpoint, but was it to the point where it just like personally pissed you off, or did you just like run with it and go, you know what, they're doing their job, I don't agree with it, but did that just motivate you personally, or just tick you off? You'll never talk to that guy again? I mean,
no, that one I got. We don't have a team. I mean, nobody in the history has brought a team back from the death. You don't have any players. Not and I'm not saying this. Sounds like you're bragging now, but I totally got where they would come. I mean, it was over and under of I don't know how you get the half game, but it was like a game and a half.
Well, they're making you pick one.
Well, I think maybe we can get two,
or two and a half.
Yeah, 2.5. The half is the key. So, but that was, I knew where they were coming from, but by gosh, we were going to use it, and I knew how we had recruited, that we'd gotten a lot of players. And of course, I've told y'all the story of these junior college guys. A lot of them were injured, had a little bit of time with them. I knew we were going to be better than that, and we were going to surprise a few people. And if you can live in that world where people are going to overlook you, you want to stay in that world.
All right. So talking about like in the individual write-ups, let's say an opponent that you had, did you ever read something in a magazine and it kind of made you go, I never really looked at it from that perspective in regards to one of your opponents for that upcoming season?
Oh, 100%. Okay. Like I said, if I could get a tidbit, I could get a motivation, I could get to anything too that says, wow, they're working hard. They're maybe better than we thought, because I'm listening to the coach. How is he saying it? Once again, especially early when I don't have a real feel for these guys. Now, then I'm going to start using film. I can go, okay, I can exactly see who they are, but I don't care. There's, we're all looking for one thing that can make us better. And also that motivates me and go, oh, wait, they're working. I need to be working,
Not necessarily Phil Steele, but all of these publications, are they calling the office and they're saying, hey, we'd love to come and sit down? And how limited are you on what you're going to give them? Obviously not game plan, but you've got one of those guys that you know's coming in. Right. And they've got their, hey, these are our key players to watch, or newcomers to watch. Are you going to offer that name up, or you might keep that one?
Yeah. So let's go. So I think that was what I was saying with Phil. He was very well read. You weren't going to sneak up on him on too many things. I mean, he watched film like a coach. I mean, he talked to me about how he broke it down. And there's other people now that do that, obviously, and we can see that all over social media. But he was hard to not give him all the information because he knew. Hey, I knew this guy was on your roster. I saw him play last year. And so on. I've heard you got a new guy that's come in. Now, granted, this was right as the portal was really starting to get fluid. So, it's got to be a new world today. So you're sure wanting to see who are these people that's come on their roster.
So when you were on these family vacations or excursions in the off season, did you really turn it off, or did you still sneak a moment or two? Yeah. Because I was guilty of that many years when my kids, we'd go on vacation, but I still had my laptop. I still had my phone. And I was probably disconnected 80% of the time, but I was still in that thinking in that realm. How about you as a coach? Was that always? And your wife understood that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're never disconnected.
Okay.
And here's what I would always say to this. I remember telling my brother this story, and he would, of course he's in technology, and like I said, he was in technology before there was computer degrees, but he would unplug, and he would come back to the earth was falling apart. And I would always say, this is why I cannot unplug in my business. We'll lose a kid, they flunk out, they've gotten in trouble. And it would just be get up early, take care of business, find your breaks, find your times. And then when you're not, be all in. It was just what it would equal out to if I totally unplugged there's just no way. And so, no, I was involved. I was keeping up with things, but I was unplugged as I possibly could be.
What was your favorite family excursion that you went on?
Yellowstone for me is one that always stands out. Because it was a cross-country trip, stopped at all the places that, I still remember Jacob, who's grown now, going, it's the first time I've seen a whole train. You could look out and see, Nebraska and Ramallah here, but all the different places. You stop at a place where there was a fort in Nebraska, or the Golden Gate Bridge, and you go, all those things that you're in the car together. So those were the trips that I just loved.
So now we're going down another road. in regards to those trips, did you have an itinerary, or it was like, okay, we're going to go here, but you know what? We're going to divert. If we see something on the side of the road that we want to go, we're going to be a part of. Or did Bill Clark have that itinerary down to the very second?
I'm guessing. I'm guessing
the
schedule, very schedule oriented.
That's what I think. I think he was very, very like, this is what we're doing. Now, I will allot about a 30-minute time frame here if we want to venture off to Stuckey's and get a pecan log.
Yep.
But outside of that, we've got to get
Everybody
to
uses the bathroom at the same time.
Yeah, we're not stopping more than a couple times. Are we wrong or right?
Be nice to your sister.
Yeah, you would be shocked. I was probably less of the as you would think, because
Really?
when you've been in charge for every single thing, everybody's, as I say, life or death.
So who planned this? Your wife planned the trip?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I was involved. I won't say I wasn't.
I'm not staying there.
But I think just the trying to be I think the word unplugged. When you're, and that was my thing was, what the whole organization's doing. I mean, it all flows through the head coach. You're the CEO, and so it's just to have a chance to say, I don't have to make all these decisions. What do y'all want to eat?
I can see him back in the old days, like he's stopping off saying like, hey, I need to go to the bathroom. And then he's over there on the payphone with Coach Vincent.
Yeah.
Like trying to find out, hey, how's those off-season workouts going? Right now. Like, what's going on? What's happening?
Hey,
what's
we
happening?
just passed this high school in whatever state in this small town. Have you been here? Have you checked this kid out?
Try and plan those times where you are actually off, and I think like it was a big deal for us taking those weeks off in the summer. But the players only got a week of that off. You'd give them the week of the 4th. They got class. They got things they've got to do. So there was always a check-in. Were we all present? Was everybody where they're supposed to be? How's academics? So you can't just let something go like that and not expect it to just fall apart.
Think about when we were growing up, all of us, but we didn't have the technology that we have today on these road trips. GPS. It was a roadmap.
Yeah.
You followed signs and you go by landmarks or whatever. Podcasts now. You got podcasts like this. You go back and you listen. You got them at your disposal. You play them through your speakers. Kids got the tablets. They got everything else. Back in the day, how did we survive those long road trips? Because it was a lot of fights with brother and sister in the back.
Misery.
The first, and we're going 65. It was fun until about Calera.
Yeah.
Getting the truckers to maybe blow the horn or different license plates.
Right. All the
After
games.
that, it was, man, how much longer we got?
Exactly. Yeah.
What did you do to stay entertained on those trips?
Yeah. I think that's having places to stop, breaking the trip up, finding those things along the way for us were the things that, that we would try and do. But there's just a lot more now. And I think that's the worry now. It's the headphones, it's the earbuds, where's the inner.
Right.
But I still say, and I still tell Coach, I've said this to so many young coaches, it's like, get them and go and be together. Even if they got their earbuds in, even if they're doing certain things, phones go up when we eat. I mean, all those things that to this day, now you got adult kids saying, when are we going to do this? So then you got the big family doing these things together. So I think that's just important for everybody.
Well, one thing's for sure, having a schedule is very smart. And if you're looking for a great place to go bank, Smart Bank is that location.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've had a lot of people, who've listened to the show and said, we went out and checked out our guys at Smart Bank, and it is what you say. They do know who you are, whether we're talking about dealing with car dealerships like Donahue or guys like us, that go in and just need somewhere to bank. So guys at Smart Bank do a great job. And Lee Smith, president, and Robert Moore, vice president, go check them out.
We're talking about being a coach during the summertime, and we're talking about you getting to unplug with the family, but I'm just curious, in regards to you getting out, whether it's fishing or getting on the lake or playing golf with friends and family or whatever during the off season, was there one particular thing you like to do?
I think, and I love the story of the lake, and I still remember Nick Saban had just gotten to LSU. I had been at Prattville for a year. Kyle Tatum, that name was coming up. So here's Kyle Tatum, 6'7", 260, and ran in the 4.7s. So as you figure out, I had Roman Harper the year before. I had Zach Woodfin. Nobody really gave him the time of day. because they had not won before, and this was their second year. We 7-3. They were 9-1. Roman Harper, ends up at Alabama late. Woodford ends up at UAB. I had another.
Kyle Tatum 4.7.
He runs at 4.78, 4.77.
Wow.
Yes. So here comes Kyle Tatum the next year. So of course everybody's projecting him as this left tackle, even though I had him playing defense. He was playing some tight end, and we had a really good team coming. And so, of course, I start getting all the coaches. Bill Walsh was back in college. Just go through the list. So Nick Saban comes to see me. We had met at a speaking engagement before. Of course, I knew Muschamp, and he comes in, and I can remember it just like I'm sitting there window talking for a long time, and he says, Tommy Tuberville said, I need to get a lake house. And I'm like, he's like, what do you think about that? And there's Mr. Lake House now,
Yeah.
But it was, I had some friends that had a lake house. We never had a lake house, but I'm like, wow, this is a pretty good life, So when I got to UAB, Logan Martin Lake, 35 miles away, 35 minutes away. That was, once I was able to do that, there is just something. And I remember Tubbs telling me that, you get out on the lake in that pontoon boat, it is amazing how everything melts. And so I would do a getaway when I was at Prattville right before the season started. A buddy of mine had a place, and I'd take the whole staff. We'd do a true getaway, talk about the season, and I would get out in his pontoon. And, we were about to start. It's as pressure as a coach as you can really feel other than game day to get ready. Just that to get out on that water. And so for me, that was my thing, with my back. Didn't get to golf a lot. I liked it, but I'd just kind of given it up. Wasn't a big hunter. Liked to fish some, but really just been out on that boat. Getting to live on the water what a blessing.
Man, it's so nice. And I grew up my grandparents lived on Logan Martin Lake.
Yeah.
So right down from Stimley Bridge,
Oh, yeah.
and you know where that is, and learned how to do all of that. And it was so much fun. But going back to the coaches, so I have friends that are in the coaching business. A couple of them have coached for you, but being with those guys, I can remember those times where they'd have that little window off.
Yeah.
And we talked about everything but football.
That's right.
So now that does connect that it was put that on hold.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much everybody, but you're right. Just something about that tranquility of listening to some music, having a beautiful day, looking at other people, nobody saying a word, and just cruising around.
Well, and I think for me, it was always trying to create opportunities even for the players. For all my years, it was those getaway times where you could take them and feed them or grill some burgers or whatever that was that showed them, take them bowling, show them that other side of you. And that was one of the big things for me at the lake was – one of the things we started doing at the end of the year was putting O-line and D-line together, putting receivers and DBs together. Come to the house, we're going to feed you good. But that camaraderie, now that's really not my vacation time, but it was time away from the office with the players that I always thought that bonding for groups that had to really compete against it. We were always putting those two groups against each other, receivers and DBs and O-line, and they get to be animosity. So just the lake and that setting, and whether you're talking about family, you're talking about players, just unplugging because you are so – the ones that do it right, it's 24/7, 365, really. So finding those times away from that is important.
You got all of those guys, all those players. You got a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah.
And you're making sure that they're eating well.
Right.
Are you and wife preparing all of this, or are y'all bringing in food?
No, we're bringing in food. For me, it was I can't enjoy you –
Yeah.
if I'm doing that. Now with the coaches came, a lot of times I would grill some steaks or whatever if it was a smaller group. But if I had a big group, I wanted to spend time with them. And I was just you'd ask my guys, them, a lot of them, don't ever run out of food.
No.
House cleaning.
Right.
It's just because I've lived that. And it's like, man, I want everybody to feel taken care of. I want everybody to feel important. I want to be able to spend time with, as many of these people or kids or coaches who, So no, we catered it in.
I'm curious, and not so much during the summer months, but back when you started coaching, is there one aspect of your coaching, whether it's philosophy, drills, whatever the case may be, what you did when you first started all the way to your final year at UAB? Did you have pretty much a standard list of things that you've had throughout your whole career? Because I know you would have to change some of up, to kind of change the way your outlook was. But was there one specific thing or things that stood the test of time from the moment you stepped on the field at Prattville to the last day at UAB?
That's a good question. I think the philosophy of, and I know this, I used to tell when I talk, guys want to hear X's and O's. And I would tell them, you got to hear the philosophy. I'm going to tell this quick story. I've told this many times. Still remember 19, I'm going to go play and, my back's been messed up. And anyway, can't get my back well. So I'm going to start coaching. And my dad gives me a book. It's a manual. It's called Coach of the Year Clinic Notes. So what it was back in the day, and y'all have heard me talk about old clinics. I'd go with Dad to Tuscaloosa, and they'd tell you nothing. Now he goes out to Texas in '68. He would go to the school on his own, and they would give him things. But clinics they were bad. Somebody get up and talk about busting up a wedge for 30 minutes. Just stupidity. But they were getting together, and there was some. But this Coach of the Year for years had a really good clinic. What did I want in there? There's 25 of the top coaches in the country, and there's a lot of philosophy in there. I absolutely loved it. And I'm telling you, every year I would read this Nike Coach of the Year manual, and I still remember when I got the call, and I'm in high school in the early 2000s, we want you to come speak. And then I ended up in that manual, and then as a college coach. So it was really college coaches, and they end up doing some high school coaching. That was not to brag on me, but it was just how that shaped my philosophy. So I'm going to backtrack to what I was brought up on was it was more than a game. And so what does that mean? It is this philosophy that it is life. It is how we teach these kids about all the things that they carry with them for the rest of their life. And you're playing for each other. You're playing for your community. I mean, the stuff that raises that hair on the back of your neck to say, man, this is a big deal. I still remember as a kid getting to watch after a game and there would be a win in Ohatchee, Alabama, and here comes all these older guys. Dad spoke to the team, they won, and these guys are going around shaking their hand. Grown men shaking these guys' hand, and I'm like, wow. Man, how big is that people from the community think this is a big deal. And I think that was what I always say when it's school and church and family, all the good things. And when you do it that way, then it is something else that they can carry with them. So I think from that philosophy, and I said, when we get to college, I am absolutely not changing that.
Some of this you might have already touched on, but football-wise that you use, what was the best piece of advice you ever got?
Oh, my gosh. I think
one of the best, to be fair, because I'm sure you got a lot.
There's so many people that influence me that I would use these Coach of the Year books, and I'm finding Bill Snyder. I still remember when Bill Snyder turned it around, because that's who I would look. Who is doing more with less? And that's who I always wanted to be. Now, if I had more, we should be great. But I always wanted to be the guy that we don't have the players, we still win. Whatever that is, we still find a way. We find a way. Now, when we got them, we got the talent, then we're great. Then So I think those philosophies of coaching every player different, finding the way to maximize your players, getting the most out of them, and that's really not an X and O piece. There's tons of X and O pieces that we could talk about on the next show, but the philosophy of maximizing your players through training, belief, heart, team, that's what I was raised on.
I'm sorry, but going back to that, there's only so much X's and O's. How many different variations can we see? It seems like we've seen about every wrinkle. Is there anything that's just going to be brand new? Oh, wow, that's really cutting edge. Why have we not thought of that?
Here's the thing now. There's so much out there now. If you want to find it, my gosh, it's out there. And there's people now breaking down, because they can sit there and look at it. You don't have to be a genius to say, wow. Or they just go and they get somebody to take a picture of somebody's playbook. There's so much information. There's less of that than there's been. There's always going to be wrinkles and variations. But the philosophies of how you get the most out of your players, to me, that's the secret sauce.
All right, talking about consistency with Coach Bill Clark, and you got Donahue Chevrolet. You've been consistent with them for a long time.
Yeah, I love our guys at Donahue. I think that goes without saying, and how they treat you or me or just, the guys, people that are coming there, and I've seen that from them consistently through the years. And of course, you got the great Chevy products, but all the things that all the different kind of vehicles they carry, new and used, just great folks.
Well, it's been a busy last couple of weeks at Coach Safely, and I know you were in Washington, D.C. last week.
Yeah, we went and saw Coach Tuberville, Jabbo Wagner. What an honor to get to go with him and talk to Coach about being part of our really fundraising and really new kickoff for what we're doing with Coach Safely. End of August, we're going to be getting next episode. You're going to hear a lot about that. That's coming, but nailing that date down with him at the end of August. Paul Feinbaum is going to interview Coach Tubbs. I'm going to be up on the stage as well. So 2 coaches talking about safe coaching, the law that we passed in the state of Alabama, where we're heading with that. And then, of course, all the other things, NIL and whatever comes up. We're going to have a great evening. Tickets are going to go on sale. We got a lot of great sponsorships. So you 2 guys are going to be involved. I don't know if I told you that, Molly. Y'all are all going to be working that night. So expect to see these guys there if you get to come.
All right. Also, big news came Friday night, Coach, and that was the NCAA House settlement, the $2.8 billion settlement that now we're trying to understand a little bit better clarity in regards to what's going to happen moving forward. One thing is the College Sports Commission, which is basically supposed to take over from the NCAA from a rules standpoint. Just your 30,000-foot view of a brand new NCAA-like entity called the College Sports Commission.
It's a true wait and see. I mean, you guys are talking about this every day. I know the coaches I'm talking to they're cautiously optimistic that there at least feels like we've gotten some parameters now. Of course, you hear it. Everybody says, "Well, wait till somebody carries it to court, and we'll really see." But I think parameter-wise, it's better. It's good. Just anything that gives us guardrails, I think we all got to be excited about.
I feel like some of the stuff, the secondary violations that we would get, that in the grand scheme of things, you start reading through them and they amounted to nothing. My question is, do those go away? And what does this group, they focus on? Take us behind the scenes.
Yeah.
With the old NCAA, how often would it be that a school would hand something over, send something to the NCAA and say, hey, this is going on. Look into this.
Yeah, I think what they created was their own, I hate to use the word Gestapo, but
that's fair.
The people that were looking at you were your own people. And I think that's where you got in this disparity of your own people are trying to find a way to get you. Now, if they're trying to be proactive and keep you out of trouble, as I say, that's a good thing. And we know the people, we could name them right now, that we know lived in the gray and loved it versus just doing your job. And I always thought, what's the, are they watching their self like we're watching ourselves? That's where the problems got in. The big thing for me, there's enough major things out there. Once again, quit calling people on other rosters. I mean, that is my pet peeve, whether it was, it's not right for any of us to do it, because that's why it screws these kids' minds up and the faults crack, So if we could eliminate that, and just get parameters of when can we contact these guys, what's the amounts, like I said, guardrails. Just give us some rules that we can stick by, and then and then go after the major things.
A couple of weeks ago, Landrum was in Atlanta. He got an opportunity to hang out with Canine Global Protection Group, a handmade Alabama company.
Yes,
that's outstanding, and they do a great job.
Gage. I remember the night. What a cool deal to get to, for you to be there and get to meet the dogs that are protecting us, keeping us safe. Veteran-owned company. Just really, really special, and appreciate their support.
Also, we have to give a major shout out each and every week. The fine folks, Jimmy Lee and Buffalo Rock and Dr. Pepper, not only a sponsor of this show, but they do so much in the Birmingham metropolitan community, the whole state of Alabama in regards to college athletics.
Yeah, they're Jimmy Lee and Buffalo Rock, very involved, UAB, Alabama, and Auburn. He's involved in all 3 universities. And Coach Safely. This is just a philanthropic company. Matthew Dent, who's running the company now, and those guys, and of course Dr. Pepper sponsoring us.
I have to ask you this question. Landrum wanted me to ask you this. I felt very awkward asking you this.
No, I definitely didn't.
But I feel like I have to. Did you do any podcasts this week?
I did not. I really thought about
I'm glad you reminded me. I would have asked him that.
I really thought about you. There was a question mark at the games I was at in Trustful this week. I thought I saw some money exchange hands with our umpire here. I did not get it on video, but there was some questioning from the stands. I don't believe it though.
No,
you know him.
It'd be hard.
I like how he's pivoting off the fact that he cheated on us on like
don't let him
podcasts
change
last
subject.
week.
Landrum, I have a question out there.
Yeah, that's tough. I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah,
no, you're gonna cheat. You're gonna cheat those young people out of a win for a few extra bucks. Shame on you,
Blue.
Yeah.
Molly, no comment. Molly's not offering any comment.
The ball bag around his belt.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
It's filled with
I'm
fat
kidding.
stacks of cash.
I've heard it, but I didn't see it. So.
Actually, that would mean that Pat would be behind the plate. We know that's not happening.
No, not anymore. I've retired from that. Not doing that. We hope you've enjoyed this wonderful podcast. Download it each and every week. Tune in on Jocks 94.5 every Thursday night. For Coach Bill Clark, Landrum Roberts, Molly Robinson, I'm Pat Smith. Have a great week.
This has been the Bill Clark Show, presented by Dr. Pepper.